Hello, my name is Sarah Lorenzon. I'm a principal at a small design firm called Plasmatic Concepts. I also teach architecture at Cal Poly Pomona, and I'm the director of the Neutra VDL house where we're sitting actually right now. In order to do this online conference, I've invited Bill Fairhawk from Radiant Features to help with the interview.
Sarah, I'm going to ask you some questions, a little bit about your practice, and then a little bit about some things about what you do in your teaching at school. For Plasmatic Concepts, what kind of projects do you work on?
We work on a variety of projects. We do architectural installations. We also do actually TV work for television, and we do documentary films. In particular, we've started doing documentary films about large-scale urban issues. In my teaching, I teach architecture and urban design classes, as well as a film class.
And in your urban research, in what ways do you use film as a tool in your urban research work?
We've done a number of different projects. Really, we've done projects where we've done the research ourselves, and we use the film as a way to make proposals for large-scale urban projects. The benefit of that is that it actually allows you to have something which is very accessible to a lot of different types of people, and usually in large-scale urban projects, there are a lot of different stakeholders who need to have buy-in into those types of projects. So we found that was very effective. We've also worked with other architectural firms to produce pieces for them when they're presenting their work at biennales or for different types of presentations. And then the third type of project we've done are really more straight documentary films, the most recent of which was the Los Angeles River project, where we were asked by the city of Los Angeles to produce a film about this enormous 20-year master plan to revitalize the Los Angeles River.
You mentioned that you use film as a part of proposals and things like that. What kind of benefits do you see in using video and film for proposals and for urban research?
Well, the reason why we used film in the first project that we did this way, which was the future of filming in downtown Los Angeles, is that we realized that there was a number of different people that we needed to get buy-in from. So by having all of these different voices heard, it made it seem like a much more comprehensive approach towards the project. It also, we realized when we started doing this, that people really like to be heard. So by interviewing people, it makes them feel like their concerns are being heard. They see themselves as being a primary stakeholder. It also allows us, in a strange way, to actually have influence over the outcome. And that was when we got really interested in this, that this isn't purely, the films that we're doing aren't really meant to be neutral. They are actually design proposals. We see them as, by inserting in the way that you edit the film, in the way that the kinds of questions that you ask, you're actually having your own voice being heard. And in a small firm like ours, really the only way to get to have a certain amount of influence over a project of this scale is to try to shape the debate in some way over what's happening. So there's a lot of benefits. It's also, film is an emotional medium, so people really get involved in the issue, and it's much more effective, we've found, than writing journals, which, while an important part of academia, actually filmmaking has the opportunity of really getting people to understand all of the issues in a very immediate and visual way.
When you've been on some of your projects, have you been surprised by some of the responses that people have given you in terms of you present something and then you're surprised by what they respond to. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
I think that it really depends on the types of people we're interviewing. Obviously, we in a lot of these pieces we've interviewed politicians who have very well rehearsed answers, and those are rarely surprising. And then we have people who are much more they're much closer to the issue, and they might have responses which tend to contradict some of the sort of long-held beliefs that people have. For example, when we were doing the Los Angeles River, we interviewed a developer for that project, and he was obviously very supportive of the Los Angeles River Master Plan, but he actually also understood the concerns of local residents in terms of displacement, in terms of issues of gentrification. And he voiced some opinions which were actually in opposition to what the politicians involved in the project were supporting. So that surprised me a little bit. And even though the film was generally well received by the city, that became a little bit of a point of contention. So it's interesting that even people who you think would sort of follow the party line would actually take a position on camera.
Yeah, it seems like a large part of working in the film medium is just getting out and talking to people. And maybe you can, in that context, maybe explain some of the projects that you've done.
All right. And I think for this piece we'll try to include snippets of 3 different projects that we've worked on. The first, as I mentioned earlier, is the future of filming in downtown Los Angeles. And for that project, I worked with a team of colleagues. And I actually started that project while I was still a student at SciArc under Michael Speaks. And what we did is that we were studying downtown Los Angeles, and we realized that there was an enormous amount of film crews going around the city in this very, very small part of Los Angeles, in downtown, in this very small district of downtown. And there was a lot of controversy, there was a lot of protest about the fact that these film crews were there, so we thought, well, this is an interesting research project. I then followed that through, and what we did is that we did research on why downtown Los Angeles was so heavily used by the film industries, and it turns out the generic aspects of downtown Los Angeles actually allow the film crews to cheat it, to make it look like any other place in the world. And it's also the only real urban space in Los Angeles. So we discovered that there's 7 times more filming done in these, about 10 square blocks than there is anywhere else in the U.S. At the same time, this is an area which in the last few years has been slated for a lot of redevelopment. There's been a lot of adaptive reuse in these areas. So there's a large, fairly wealthy population moving into this neighborhood who is not crazy about having film crews filming all night, bringing generators, lights, clogging up traffic. So they were really getting on the city to stop or to limit the amount of filming. And what we wanted to do first was figure out what the impact of filming was in this area in terms of revenues for the city and for the state of California, and then show what the population's primary complaints were. And then we came up with a whole series of proposals which could either be taken together or separately to try to mitigate each one of the issues. So these included things like creating infrastructural nodes throughout this part of Los Angeles,